Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is going to be my entire collection of Blu-ray Amarays. I should prefix this by saying, I say entire collection, this will be sans my Marvel stuff, which is all in storage. And there also, to be honest with you, maybe a few other kind of random titles that I've just kind of put in storage. But this is what I've got available. I'll do this in two videos. This one is going to be sci-fi, fantasy, action, comedy, and the second video will be horror, because that's, to be honest with you, what I've got most of. So I'm not going to try and take too long on each of these. We'll just give a quick little conversation about each one. First one is the Tekken movie, live action movie. Not brilliant. I actually have this on Steelbook anyway, so that's that one. To be honest, if I try to get most of my films on Steelbook or Mediabook or something, so I don't have a huge amount of Amarays. Vigilante Diaries is a kind of a B-movie action movie that I reviewed a little while ago and I liked it, so I got the Blu-ray of it. Quite often I'll get sent screeners, and if I like the movie, I'll tend to buy it on Blu-ray. Yeah, so most of the stuff I collect, it tends to be on Steelbook if possible. But if I can't get it, obviously I'll go for the Amaray. 68 Kill, this is a fantastic kind of Tarantino-esque kind of, well, it's kind of an action film. It's like a crime film, but it's has elements of horror stuff. If you like the kind of Tarantino-esque style movies and haven't seen this one, I'll check it out. It's all kind of to do with femme fatales, that's all I'll kind of say, but it's actually quite funny. It has a serial killer element to it as well. King of Fighters, this one comes with a slip. I have seen this movie ages ago, though I don't remember it. Based on a video game, not meant to be very good. This is the Spanish version of True Lies. And a big shout out to Carlos from Eastwood for Life fan who sent me this one. There's a whole big thing about this movie, and it's the fact that this is a grey market release. A lot of people seem to think it is a bootleg. It is not. I have done a video about the grey market situation if you want to check it out. ZULU, classic Michael Caine film. Probably wouldn't get made these days, let's be honest. Non-stop, this one has a lenticular slipcase. I actually quite liked Taken a fair bit, and I've enjoyed a lot of the Liam Neeson kind of action movies to that point. 24, this is the final season. I'm a huge 24 fan, and you can only get a few of the seasons on Blu-ray. The rest of them are only on DVD. I'm hoping that one day they'll release them. This is the last season. And that is season 7. And I think, to be honest with you, they're the only seasons that you can get. On to some comedy. The In-Betweeners. This is like one of the most hilarious comedy series I've ever watched. And it's very, actually rings quite true of what real teenage boys are like. This is the film that sort of came out. There was a second film which is not as good. This movie is pretty funny though. The Change Up with Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman. I'm actually a big fan of like body swap movies, and whoops, this one is quite fun. This one's actually a extended version of it as well. '17 again with Zac Efron, and again it's a kind of body swap movie, and I really enjoyed this one. Role Models, Paul Rudd. Staying with Paul Rudd, I Love You Man. About bromance. Let's Be Cops. A movie that gets, you know, shat on quite a bit, but I enjoyed this one. My favourite comedy of all time, Weird Science. Love this movie. I don't actually find it hilariously funny, but I really enjoy the movie. Bridesmaids. Probably all know this one. This is 40. Look, a rental copy. Do you remember those days? '22 Jump Street. Probably one of the few sequels which is as good as the original. Okay, moving on to some superhero action. The Crow. I actually have this on steelbook, 2 different steelbooks, but this is just your standard Amaray. I said there was no Marvel stuff. There's a couple of crap in it that I just haven't put away. This one's actually an Australian one that comes in a steel case, but it has an Amaray inside. This was the HMV exclusive slipcase of X-Men Dark Phoenix, a film that I have yet to see. Defendor, this is an independent movie about a mentally challenged guy who kind of thinks he's a superhero. Very, very touching film, and it's kind of like a dark comedy. I would really recommend this one, to be honest with you, if you haven't seen this film. Quite touching film. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, just a Amaray with a slipcase. Got this in Poundland, so I didn't have it just on normal, so I thought I'd pick it up. Sparks, this is a kind of a low-budget indie movie that I reviewed ages ago, and then recently just found it on Blu-ray. Griff the Invisible, same sort of thing. Indie movie with Ryan Cotrain from True Blood. Meteor Man, which is kind of a recent pickup, a sort of comedy, sort of superhero movie. This one I really enjoy. It's a German Blu-ray. Moving on to some fantasy films. The Dragon Phoenix Chronicles. You may notice here there's going to be a lot of B movies because that's what I like. And this is a foreign language movie. Not particularly good, I won't lie. It's pretty low budget. Flight of Dragons. This is an American Blu-ray. Love this film. One of the best animated movies. And I'm not a huge fan of animation these days, to be honest with you. But I really, really enjoy this movie. Orc Wars. This is a French version, which has a different sleeve to the pretty much everyone else. I like the French version because it's got the dragon stuff in it. And this is a real fun movie. Again, it's a very B movie, and it's essentially like what if the Lord of the Rings movies spilled out into the contemporary Earth, and this is kind of the crux of the film. I like it. Centurion. There is actually a metal pack for this, which I'm desperate to get hold of, but it's super rare. And this is a Roman epic from Neil Marshall, the director of Descent. Iron Master. This is less of a fantasy film, more of a caveman movie, despite the cover here. And this is one of the kind of the limited editions from '88 films that kind of come with a slipcase, starring George Eastman. Dungeons and Dragons 3, and this is where I know that I definitely have Dungeons and Dragons 2 as well, which has obviously been put away somewhere, so I definitely do have more Blu-rays put away somewhere. This is a really good fantasy movie. I know the original Dungeons and Dragons movie is crap, but this one's actually pretty good, and the best way I would describe it is like the Suicide Squad, but for fantasy. It's basically about a group of villains that go on a quest, and you know, the different character types and stuff like that, and there's kind of some of the villains maybe have a little bit of a moral streak in them, but I really enjoy it. Again, it's low budget. The second movie is also pretty good, but the third one is the best, if you ask me. Hawk the Slayer. Okay, this is a cheesy British 80s fantasy movie with amazing music that actually reminds me a lot of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly soundtrack, but it's a fun movie and has one of the best elf characters called Crow. And he kind of fires off his arrows like a machine gun speed. It's awesome. But it's super, super cheesy. Snow White and the Huntsman. This is an HMV exclusive with art cards. I didn't mind these movies, to be honest with you. And I like get a lot of crap. Rise of the Warrior. Rise of the Shadow Warrior. This film has got about 20 different titles, depending on what kind. Even in England, I think it's got more than one title. And it's a kind of there's this production company is called Arrow Storm Entertainment, and they make some pretty good fantasy movies. I did the Mythica series, if you've ever seen them. This one is my favourite out of the kind of like the straight fantasy movies, and it's a, you know, a comparable movie to the kind of Lord of the Rings style, but it's worth a watch if you like fantasy films. Kroll, this is the German version. And then we got the Kroll on the HMV Premium Collection. Now this version is the version before it got pulled off sale, because there was a problem with the disc, the aspect ratio was wrong or something like that. And this is that version, the wrong version, sort of thing. It was only available for a couple of weeks before it got pulled off on sale, and then was re-released later on. So this is the version with the problem. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Certainly, obviously, worse for playing, but probably is rarer in regards to collectability. Red Sonja, this is a Korean version, which comes with a exclusive slipcase and booklet and stuff. I think I want to say it's, let's have a look. Kimchi DVD, it's released to, or maybe it's Nova Media, I can't remember. But anyway, it's limited to 500 copies. The Beastmaster, this one is an Australian version by Umbrella. This version, the Australian version, is actually slightly longer than any other version by about 2 or 3 seconds. Not a huge amount, but there is a little bit of extra nudity from Tanya Roberts in this version of the film compared to any others. Now there is another version coming out from Vinegar Syndrome, so I'm not sure if that will have the couple of extra seconds, but this version does have it. My favourite TV show of all time, Robin of Sherwood. Probably somewhat forgotten, or maybe even unknown outside of the UK, or if you're over a certain age or under a certain age. A fantastic Robin Hood series. Lasted 3 seasons. The first 2 starred Michael Praed, although they were shorter seasons. And this is them. This is the first 2 seasons. Added a mystical element to the Robin Hood mythos, and actually added the Muslim character. The first instance where, you know, you had an ethnic minority character in Robin Hood was in here, and then any subsequent versions of Robin Hood have actually had that. Think of like Morgan Freeman in Prince of Thieves, things like that. That was because of this show. And this is the 3rd season, which is actually twice as long as the other 2 seasons, and this one stars Jason Connery, son of Sean Connery, as the 2nd incarnation of Robin Hood. They actually play different characters. There's actually 2 different legends of Robin Hood. This is why you can kind of get away with it. On Knight Templar. This is a foreign movie, but it's very much off the kind of like the Braveheart mould. A good production value. There's not a huge amount of action in it, but it's a really epic kind of story. It's actually fantasy. It doesn't actually, this person didn't exist, but it does have a lot of historical elements in there. The Fall of Grayskull. This one is actually a fan film, but I'm a huge Masters of the Universe fan, and I actually got this from their website, and I got the director to sign it for me as well up here. And this is a kind of a live, somewhat accurate kind of version of the characters and He-Man. It's not huge. It's not a long movie, but yeah, and there's obviously a fan film. But I really enjoyed it. You know, it's all right. Ator the Fighting Eagle. This one is from Dark Force Entertainment. It's got glow in the dark slipcase. Ator movies are probably one of the lesser known or lesser quality sword and sorcery movies, but I still kind of like them. I actually quite like Miles O'Keefe, who is the kind of the main actor here, and he played Dracula in the Waxworks movies, for example, and I actually quite like him. And this has got Sabrina Sayani in it, who is like super hot and always reminded me of like a blonde Salma Hayek in a lot of ways. Yeah, so there's actually 4 Ator movies. This is the first one, and yeah, we'll see if they ever do the other ones. On to some sci-fi. This one is The Demolitionist. And this is kind of like a RoboCop meets the Crow style film about a futuristic police officer played by Nicole Eggert who gets killed and brought back as a kind of cyborg and goes against the bad guys and stuff like that. Cheesy action, but I do like this movie. Virtual Revolution, and then if you look closely, I actually have a quote on this Blu-ray for all the Geek Legion of Doom dads. And this was a movie that clearly I got at a screener, and I really, really liked it. And it's comparable to The Matrix in some ways. It is a cyberpunk movie about kind of virtual reality and stuff like this, and has a kind of like a noir feel to it, like a tech noir feel to it. And it's incredibly good for a low-budget movie. So if you like kind of Blade Runner, as it says up here, you'll kind of enjoy this one. It's worth tracking down, and I think it was actually released by Wild Eye in the States. Speaking of the Geek Legion of Doom, this is an interesting story for this one. This is the Nemesis, well, it says complete saga. They've actually been films released after this. So this is the first 4 films. There's been, I think, at least 1 more, maybe even 2. So this is a Amaray box set. Now, the interesting thing with this is the first film, which is the one that stars Oliver Gruner. To make this box set, they actually took my review of the original Nemesis review that I did on YouTube and put it as a special feature on this Blu-ray. So, where are we? This Blu-ray, this literally on here has me on it as a special feature. Yeah. Nuts. So I didn't even know. They didn't even ask me. Someone told me in the comments section, oh, do you realise you're on this Blu-ray? And I was like, no. But yeah, there you go. Prisoners of the Lost Universe. A crazy, cheesy movie with Richard Hatch and John Saxon. Very silly. Turbo Kid, this is the UK Blu-ray with a slipcase. A very fun kind of 80s throwback style movie. It's obviously meant to ape the kind of the 80s post-apocalypse movies like your Mad Max clones. But it's kind of like it's made like it was made in the 80s essentially. But it's really fun, really great characters. I do love this film, as you will see from the next 2 releases. So this is a release by Steel Archive. It's not a Steelbook, it's actually just an Amaray, but it's a premium edition that comes with this kind of slipcase and is limited to 250 pieces, as you can see here, with different artwork. You've got a book and stuff in there as well. Obviously, I use my regular Blu-ray to actually watch the film. These ones I keep still because I've obviously already got the film. This is the other version with the other art, and again, limited to 250 pieces. The Ice Pirates, this is a fun movie. So a lot of the kind of the old 80s and 90s science fiction movies that I love on VHS, I've actually managed to get now on Blu-ray, to be honest with you. And they never really seem to have special editions as such, but I'm pleased to just have them, as a physical copy, because, I do love these films, and, they're a bit cheesy by today's standards, but I love them. And here's another example, American Cyborg Steel Warrior. Back in the 90s, the VHS days were flooded with Terminator clones. And this one kind of is one of them, and shows Joe Lara. It's kind of like a martial arts cyborg kind of clone, really, Terminator / cyborg clone. But I enjoyed this one a lot. Battle Beyond the Stars. Speaking of grey market, this is another version of a grey market release. This is a Spanish version, and it's the only region B at the moment that you can get of this. So you can get an American version, but this is my player. I'm not sure if it's a that is a burn on demand on that one though. So my play, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to play all region A, so I had to get this one. Star Crash, again, this is a cheesy science fiction movie, Italian one, that stars Carolyn Monroe. And I actually met Carolyn Monroe at a convention, and I don't know how well that will show up, but She actually signed this version for me, and it's a fun movie that clearly rips off Star Wars. It's actually got lightsabers in and everything, and stars a young David Hasselhoff as well. I really enjoyed this movie when I was younger, but it is so cheap. The Eliminators, this is a fun one. This is an 88 film was released that had the slipcase with it. They've since released a media book, which is kind of like, oh, damn it, I want to get that, but I kind of like, I'm double dipping on films that I don't really want to double dip on. I do love this movie, but I may still pick up the media book at some point. This is a fun kind of, almost a superhero team movie, and it was meant to spawn sequels, but it never did. Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. This one is got Michael Ironside as a bad guy, and it's a fun kind of sci-fi, kind of a post-apocalyptic movie in a way, but it actually takes place on kind of a different planet and things. But yeah, it's essentially about this, Peter Strauss's character is like a kind of bounty hunter sort of thing, has to rescue these women, etc. The Mandalorian, this is actually a bootleg, and this is the first season, and I wanted to get a physical copy. I know that there will probably be one at some point, so there you go. Mandalorian. Galaxina is another cheesy 80s science fiction comedy. This one kind of more of a spoof in a lot of ways. This one stars Dorothy Stratton, who was murdered shortly after the completion of this movie. So this one has a sad epilogue to her life, unfortunately. Had some fun moments, but it's a little bit hard to watch these days. The Last Starfighter. I know Arrow have just released a new version of this in the States. This is actually an American Blu-ray, because you can't actually get it in the UK at the moment. And I love this movie. This movie, I do think would be... I would be happy for them to remake this one, or even, just change the effects, because this was one of the first films to use CGI, and it really shows. And the CGI nowadays is very noticeable, and I would actually be well up for them just kind of changing the... the actual space battle scenes are not the thing that's fun about this movie, it's the characters. So they were to keep everything and just modernise the special effects. I would be well up for that. Edward Scissorhands, this is actually an Italian box set, but it does have an Amaray in there, and essentially you get like a, a few kind of like postcards and things like that inside. John Carter from Mars, I actually got this with my Disney reward points. Mind Warp, this is a Twilight Time movie, stars Bruce Campbell, and is kind of once again a post-apocalyptic movie. Transformers the movie, this is the great 80s animated film that I went to the cinema to see and cried when Optimus died. Battlestar Galactica, this is the pilot episode, which was kind of featured episode, which kind of released as a movie here in the in Europe. Solar Fighters, I had this on VHS, also known as Solar Babies. Did a review of this one not so long ago. Origin Wars, this one has got a different name, it's called The Osiris Child in some territories. This is a relatively modern film, and this is one of the movies that I got sent a screener for and really enjoyed it, and sort of I'd buy the the hard copy of it. Actually pretty fun for a modern sort of space opera. Metal Shifters, I bought this kind of recently and I haven't actually watched it yet, so it looks like a kind of a silent sort of style Transformers ripoff. And then finally for science fiction, Reign of Fire, a relatively recent pickup again about dragons. I think they terrorise in the year 2020, I believe, in this movie. There you go. Who would have thought, eh? Anyway, that is the first half of my Amaray collection. We'll go for the horror in the next video. I hope you watch it. Any movies here that tickle your fancy, please let me know. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.